Coming off the first World Series championship in franchise history, what are the Rangers' expectations? What's the key to them repeating as champs? And how is this season going to finish up? We're going to talk about all that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Paddock, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. You can follow my guest at OG Shill. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, joining me today, we are here the week of opening day. Grant Schiller, the prospect prognosticator, writer at Baseball Prospectus. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Yeah, we're just a few days away from real baseball. I think, like you texted me yesterday, the pitching staff got out of surprise with no injuries, and just ready to roll and see the banner go up and the rings get given out.
I am so ready for banners and rings and uniforms with World Series champion patches on them. Before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Now, this is the start of the season previewing. We be previewing this season, and the most important thing that I want to start with is what is most important to the Rangers repeating as champions. There has been no team that has repeated as World Series champs since the 1998 through 2000 New York Yankees. Blech. Hate that that's the last team to do it. So it'd be nice for the Rangers to go ahead and end that streak of no repeat champs this millennia. But for me, I think the biggest thing, the biggest key to this team repeating as World Series champions is the bottom third of the order being good. Now, I have no doubt in my mind about whoever is hitting first, second, and third, which will be some combination of Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, and a third person who is very good at hitting baseballs. It's going to be elite. Middle third, probably going to be pretty darn good. Some combination of, I think, Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford, Nathaniel Lowe, or Josh Young. One of those two interchangeably in the 6-hole. But what made this offense so incredibly good last year is that there were no easy outs at all, even down to the number 9 hitter, Leo Taveras. Now, sometimes Leo Taveras did provide some easy outs because he was a very streaky hitter, and when he's in a cold streak, he gets real cold. But when your 7 and 8 hitters are possibly going to be all-stars in Josh Young and Jonah Heim, or maybe it's Nathaniel Lowe in there, or maybe it's Jared Walsh, who, for a little bit, who is a former all-star, that's what takes a lineup from pretty darn good to, oh my gosh, I cannot get this lineup out. I cannot get out of 5 innings. That's what makes it the absolute bane of the existence of starting pitchers to face this lineup. And I think there's a chance that there's some regression from Jonah Heim's offense, some regression from Josh Young's offense, possibly. I'm still a big believer in Josh, and even Nathaniel Lowe. Who knows if last season was closer to the real Nathaniel Lowe than the 2022 version? I don't think so, but it's definitely a possibility. So if this lineup is still legitimately 9 good hitters deep, I think there's no doubt in my mind, no matter what other questions there are about the pitching staff and the bullpen and World Series hangover, it's just going to be too good of an offense to not repeat as champs. What's your key to this team repeating?
I think you nailed one right on the head. Right on the head right there. Heim solidifying that what he is about. Leote maybe taking another step forward, and the rest of the team either holding serve or improving is huge, so you have the lineup depth. I'll say, I guess, the boring answer that has kind of been the key since December when we learned that Scherzer was going to be out and then sign Molly. It's staying alive the first half of the season. You're going to have a patchwork rotation. All 5 of the guys are going to be big league caliber pitchers, but they're all, for the most part, aside from Evaldi, back to the rotation caliber pitchers. I think the bullpen will be better, but there's still questions there. You're going to have Seager rounding into form. Garcia might start off slow after he got started late. There's just a lot of things add up to maybe getting off to a bad start. Not to mention World Series hangover. You see a lot of times champions in any sport get off to a poor start the next season because maybe they don't have the same fire. Maybe I don't know, they're just tired from having played an extra month. I don't know exactly what causes it, but you see that happen. They can't afford to have that happen. Stay alive the first half of the season. Get the pitching staff healthy. That's the biggest key.
I think that's definitely, it is the boring answer, but it is also kind of the right answer. Sometimes that ends up being the case. And I'm curious for you, because I still don't know where I find myself in this camp, but what are your expectations for this season? Because it feels like, when you get to that championship window and like, who knows how long it'll be open, it feels like you got to say championship or bust, but also I'm still riding that high very much so of the World Series win of like, oh, who knows what's going to happen this season? It'll be fun. Where do you find yourself right now as we're recording this 4 days away from opening day?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. The correct answer, and especially for anybody who's on the team, is repeat. That's what it should be. Like, you've set the standard, now you have to meet it. Now, as a fan, if they can just give me a fun year and they play meaningful baseball in September and hopefully make the playoffs, even if they get swept out, I'll be thrilled. I'll be like, yeah, that was another great year. We're still the defending champs, and now we go into an offseason to try and build back up to it. Like, for me, success would be making the playoffs. For the team, that should not be it.
No, I think that's definitely the case. And I'm also in that camp of like, for me, I'm going to be it'd be really hard for me to be disappointed in anything this season. But I think even if this team like goes on a deep run, I'm going to be happy about it. Even if they miss the playoffs, like, I will be disappointed, and that will be a failure of a season, and they will definitely say that. But I feel like with what we just saw with that World Series run, and not just the fact that the Rangers won the World Series, which, in case you forgot, the Rangers are your reigning World Series champions. I'm going to say it about 1,800 times an episode this whole year and for the rest of time. But that they did it in year one of the window really being open, and kind of year zero. Like, last year we went in and we were both very optimistic opening day. We said, 85 wins is what this team's going to do. They're going to sneak into the playoffs, and, we'll see what happens. It's year one of Bochy, year one of, basically buying an entirely new rotation, which was certainly much better than it was the year before. The offense exploded like neither of us could have imagined. Like, just everybody, it just took massive steps forward. I guess Simeon just kind of did what he did after he got off of that like 2-month egregious start, but like everything just went right. And so now it's like, okay, they were playing with house money, but now you're playing for real. Now you've got Scherzer for the rest of this year. Who knows what level he's going to be at. You have all these getting older. You might get playoff ready DeGrom by the time you get there, but who knows? And you're still got prime Simeon and Seager, where you got to make the most of those two guys in their window, because Simeon's getting a little older. Seager is turning 30 like in a week or so. So it's just such a weird place to be as a fan. And like, I've just, if this team gets to the playoffs, my unbridled optimism will reach like new heights. It's like, oh, this team just won the World Series last year. They're just going to do the same thing again, because they're very much built for deep runs in October. And like, you got to think, I mean, the confidence of just doing that. And then if you do have DeGrom and Scherzer healthy come playoff time and Eovaldi, then like, how are you going to bet against this team in October? Can you?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. If they can make it and have a healthy pitching staff, they have to be up there with the Braves and Dodgers as the favorites. Because at that point, you roll out there in a 4-game series or a 5 or 7-game series, you don't have to give the ball to anybody but DeGrom, Eovaldi, Scherzer, and Molly / Gray / whoever else you want to put there. It's as strong as any rotation is going to be if they're healthy. That's a huge if.
Yeah, that is definitely a huge if. Coming up, we're going to talk about that if. How many starts we think the Rangers are going to get from Jacob deGrom, and where we think this team is going to finish. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is the best way you can buy tickets to anything from sports to comedy to music, theater. All your ticket buying needs will be met by Gametime, the best app I have ever found. They've got apps. Their app is so good. It's so fast. It's so easy. It just makes it takes all the hassle out of buying tickets, which normally it is such a hassle. But with Gametime, you can see exactly what your seats look like. You know exactly what the price is going to be, and it's sent directly to your phone. No mess, no stress, no nothing. Gametime has got you covered. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Shout out to the Everydayers making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be talking about my season preview yet again, but 5 bold predictions. Or actually, sorry, 5 big questions about what the Rangers need to answer this season. Now we are at the predictions section of this preview show, and we are starting with the most important question, the most answerable question. Who is closing games in September for this Rangers squad? I know I have my answer. If you have yours, I will let you go in first.
I'll say Leclerc. He tends to build up and ramp up velocity throughout the season, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's not the closer in June and July. But come September, I'll put my money on him as a slight favorite.
That's fair. That's a fair stock answer. And I was thinking about saying Leclerc, but I'm going to go Galaxy Brain. I'm going Josh Sborz. I'm a believer in Josh Sborz. I mean, we saw him closing out the World Series with that beautiful curveball, and I am just such a believer in Sborz. And with the Rangers not having to use him about 18 billion times a year, I mean, there was a stretch of I think 20 games, and he warmed up in 16 of them at a point last year. And that's too much. But I think the Rangers have 4 guys that I feel pretty good in the back of the bullpen of Sborz, Leclerc, Yates, and Robertson in some combination. And I feel like Sborz is really going to hit his stride this year. And not that I think Jose Leclerc is going to be bad, but I think Sborz is just going to be so good that the Rangers, he forces their hand into that closer's role. Now, next question. Talking about predictions. The most important question to me, how many starts does Jacob deGrom make for your Texas Rangers in 2024?
Well, as long as I'm given the boring but probably most likely stock answers, I think the most likely outcome is 0.
Wow.
You look at a guy coming off his second Tommy John. He's had other elbow and shoulder issues. Look at his rehab and recovery stints with the Mets, how they always seem to get delayed. He's already not projected to come back until August. The most likely answer is either the Rangers had a disappointing year and they're out of it, so they don't rush him back, or his arm has issues and causes delays, and so you don't push him back because he's a $37 million pitcher who you need for the next 3 years. So the most likely answer is 0. If you're putting an over-under, it's probably, 4.5? But if you're looking for the mode of all the potential outcomes, it's probably 0.
Wow, using mode. I didn't realize this was a
We're
Locked On math podcast. Well, I will hammer that over of 4.5. I'm going to say 7 regular season starts. I'm a believer. I think that we're going to get 1 more than last year. We're going to have a little over a month. Maybe it's the end of August. And I'm not saying he's going to hit, 30 innings in the regular season, but I'm saying 7 regular season starts. And I'm also saying 5 postseason starts because I want that so badly. I want that more than I want air to breathe. I mean, but outside of literally winning the World Series, watching Jacob deGrom in a Texas Rangers uniform last year is the thing that brought me the most joy. Just giggling like a school child, cackling that nobody else wanted to pay this man. It's so beautiful to watch. Elite starting pitching when it's on, and it's just baffling hitters. Especially that first inning of the year last year against the Phillies lineup. I was just hooting and hollering, and I love watching this man pitch. I want him to be healthy so badly. whether the Rangers win or not, I just want to watch Jacob deGrom throw baseballs in a Texas Rangers uniform because it is an absolutely beautiful sight. So I'm saying 7 in the regular season, 5 in the postseason, ready to be hurt again, just like Jacob deGrom. The next question: how many All-Stars do the Rangers have this year? They had 6 last year. I'm curious how many you think they'll have and who you think will be an All-Star in 2024.
I think it's going to be even higher, and not necessarily because they're going to have this many All-Star caliber players, but because the All-Star game is here and they're reigning champions, they're gonna sweep the fan voting. So I'm going to say 8.
Wow!
Throw 1 pitcher in amongst 7 hitters that win their position, regardless of whether they're really deserving or not in fan voting. Kind of a Royals-esque fan voting appearance. So I'll say, I guess all the lineup aside from Leote and maybe Nathaniel Lowe get voted in, or maybe one of the rookies doesn't make it in, and then 1 pitcher, be it Eovaldi or Leclerc or Spores or somebody else gets in.
Wow, that's bold. I hammered the under. I said 5. But now that you say that, I'm like, maybe I need to say 10. just go nuts. I think, Seager, Semien, locks. Garcia, I think he's going to be a lock this year. And then I think the 2 rookies in Langford and Carter. And I don't think it's because Josh Young is going to have a bad year or John Hyman's going to have a bad year. I think there's going to be a lot of competition at both of their positions. There's a lot of really good third basemen. There's a lot of really good catchers this year. And maybe people will be like, I'm sick of these stupid Rangers and I don't want to vote for them. But I'm hoping that you're right, and it's just everybody. Maybe the Rangers just go 10, like just the whole roster. Everyone on the roster is an all-star. Zeke Duran is an all-star. Jared Walsh becomes an all-star as well. Like, let's just go nuts with it. And now, the hard-hitting questions. What is the Rangers' record at the end of the year? I'll go first. I say 95-67. I think this is a really good team. I think, it's opening day optimism. It's just, I'm predicting 7 starts from Jacob deGrom. So, like, obviously, I have drank the Kool-Aid. I have overdosed on the Kool-Aid. But like, this is a 96 win true talent team last year, and I think they just got better. And the things that they lost is Mitch Garver. That kind of hurts, but you're replacing it with Wyatt Langford. The bullpen was horrifically atrocious the entire year, and even a mediocre bullpen. This team wins 9,500 games, and I think the bullpen's going to be probably mediocre, maybe above mediocre, like not elite, I don't think, but like be good enough. And this lineup's just too dang good. Like, they hit their way out of the problems last year, and the lineup got better. Like, I don't see this team falling off. Yeah, there's still definitely some serious question marks with the pitching staff, but the same thing was the case last year. And I just feel too good about this lineup to really worry too much about questions the pitching staff. What do you think the record is this year, Grant?
I am going to go, and I feel like this might be a little optimistic too. I'm going to go 88-74.
I'm sorry, 88 wins is optimistic. Get out of here. Drink that Kool-Aid. Go. What up me? Say no 120.
I'm going to say 88-74. Like, there's too many risks with the pitcher injuries to. If the pitchers get healthy and Eovaldi stays healthy, they're going to be a 90+ win team for everything that you just said. I mean, their lineup's going to be fantastic. They're a good defensive team. The bullpen, while each of the core 4 could go terribly wrong and it could be as bad as last year, that seems very unlikely. They've had 2 straight years of poor records in 1-run games. That's I don't think that's something that's just a part of this team. I think it's just been a little unlucky the last couple of years. So there's definitely room for them to be pushing upper 90s. If I'm giving best guess, I'm going to say 88-74, though. Maybe a couple hitters regress. Maybe a couple of arms don't stay or get healthy. I'll say 88, which should be enough to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and then this team obviously will go nuclear in the playoffs. So, about playoff positioning with your picks, do you think they are where do you think they get into the playoffs? What is their spot? Who wins the AL West? And how far does this team go in the playoffs if they get there?
I will say I have waffled back and forth on where they finish in the AL West. Because you look at all the 3 competitive teams, you could easily make a case for them to win. and you can easily point out flaws why they aren't going to make the playoffs at all, right? So I've kind of gone back and forth between first and third. I'll settle in the middle and say that they finish in second. They get the second wild card, and they lose in the World Series to the Atlanta Braves. I think if they make the playoffs, they're going to be very, very dangerous.
I think so too. I think this team is winning the AL West. It'll be by about a game, and I think that'll be a game over the Seattle Mariners. I think that the AL West will have 3 playoff teams because I'm not that big a believer in the number 3 through 4 teams in the AL East. I think the West is going to run the league this year, and I think the Rangers not only get to the playoffs as that 1 seed, they don't have to worry about I'm not worried about them having that, oh, we had 3 days off, we're going to, whine and moan like the Braves and Dodgers did, and they got waxed. But I think this team goes back to back. I think they beat the Astros in the ALDS and end that ALCS streak that they've been talking so much about. I think the Rangers beat the up and coming Orioles in the ALCS, and John Smoltz has a conniption fit live on air, and then I think the Rangers beat the Dodgers in the World Series, and I become the most insufferable person on earth. That's my prediction for this year. Coming up, we're going to do our debutante draft, where we both pick who's going to make their debuts this year and some rookies that we think are going to do some absolute damage for this Ranger squad. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's tournament season or fight for playoff home court, there is no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on PrizePicks. Testing your skills is so easy. Playing daily fantasy sports, it is the best way to get in on the action. PrizePicks offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts their player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now, I am here with Grant Schiller, who brought this brilliant idea last year of the debutante draft. Not the debutante, the debut. It's spelled the same, but you got to pronunciate it right so that you get the emphasis on the correct syllable. But here, a beautiful thing that he started last year. We will each pick Rangers prospects. They have to be Rangers prospects, which we learned last year. And Grant sideswiping the rules, who have not made their major league debuts just yet. We will pick 4 players each, and we will tally up their baseball reference score at the end of the season and see who wins. Last year, I had the amazing picks of Cole Winn, Dustin Harris, Zach Kent, Mark Church, Owen White, and I got, I think, -0.2 baseball reference score because Owen White. Grant was very sneaky, picked Mason Englert, the Rule 5 pick, Jonathan Ornelas, Evan Carter, Justin Foscue, Chase Lee, and, well, he had 3 guys make their debuts, and, of course, Evan Carter stole the way with a month of spectacular doings. I thought he was your last pick, and looking to see he was your 3rd pick, I'm really regretting the way I set things up. But let's start with the #1 overall pick. Last year, Grant had the #1 overall pick, so I get it this year, and, well, I feel pretty good about this pick. It's Wyatt Langford. I think this might just win the whole draft, and everything after this is chalk. But very glad that I was so gracious to let you go first last year, so we could alternate this, and I can get Wyatt Langford, who is going to have about, I don't know, maybe an 8 or 10 more season, and just make this pretty chat. But Grant, who are you going with your first pick in this debutante draft?
I don't think it matters. I think Wyatt Langford outwars the rest of the debutantes combined, but I'm gonna have to go, I guess, shoot for the moon here. So I'm gonna say that Jack Leiter has truly figured it out, and makes the Rangers rotation at some point and pitches well. So I'll go with Jack Leiter. I don't know that he's the most likely to put up positive WAR this year, but to make up for Langford, I have to shoot big. And on the turnaround, I'll go with Justin Foscue, who
Solid.
probably plays at some point this year and is slightly positive, but I think it's pretty limited in the ceiling.
Yeah, that is those. Like, if you're gonna beat me, those are two solid picks that have a half decent chance. I wish that I could, ride Owen White and just double up on it, but he made his debut and did not go well, and so he is off the board. So I'm gonna have to go a little bit further down on this board. I am going to pick Mark Church. I feel the most confident that he is going to make his debut. I feel pretty confident he should be on the opening day roster. And even if he's not, then I think he's going to be, a significant part of this bullpen for a decent chunk of the season. Love what I saw from him in the spring. I think every beat writer just absolutely loved what they saw from him. And the Rangers just could not stop gassing him up, which is very exciting to have, some pitching prospects, even if they are just bullpen arms that are getting some hype. And on my next pick, I am going to go with another reliever that I thought would get more of a look, and this might end up looking a little silly later on because I thought this guy would be in the big leagues by like August of last year, but that's Antoine Kelly. His stuff is just too good, and the tweaks he made in the back half of last year had me really, really believing in him. I wish that I saw more of him in camp. I don't know why the Rangers didn't throw him in more A games, why he didn't get a closer look at, making the big leagues, because he's right there. And I feel like he is just on the verge of being an absolute monster reliever, which, going with two relievers feels pretty boring, but hey, you go with who you think is gonna make an impact. And well, I already kind of nailed it, pick 1-1. And I got some leeway to mess around. So Grant, who is your next pick?
I had Kelly on my list. I think why I didn't go with him because they didn't throw him more in spring training A games. So I'm trying to, for their prospect evaluation, I'm trying to listen to what they do, not what they say, because I was surprised they didn't call him up last year when the bullpen was tough. He didn't get a great look this spring. So I don't know why, but it doesn't seem like they're super high on him. I'm going to go with the guy who I think they are super high on, but may not throw an inning this year. And may not be a Ranger by the end of this year. I'm going to take their Rule 5 pick, Carson Coleman. And hope that he's in the bullpen in the back half of the year and is worthwhile. And for my fourth and final pick, I'll take. Goodness gracious.
It gets rough there pretty quick.
I'll go with a guy who probably will not even sniff the majors, but if he has sniffed the major, something has gone very wrong. But I'll just shoot high again just in case he totally blows up. I'll say Jose Corniel. I have no confidence there. I think it's a pretty long shot that he's going to make the majors. But the other guys I have here on my list, I would put probably just as likely to have negative as positive. So maybe him not making it is going to be a blessing in disguise.
That's fair. It's a solid pick, solid few picks. And my last one probably also isn't going to sniff the big leagues. I don't think it's going to be, if he does, I don't think it would be because something went wrong. I think it'll just be because he's a reliever now, and that's probably how it's going to end up anyway. But I'm going Emiliano Teodo. I know he's only pitched as high as high A, I guess. Well, the Arizona Fall League was a little bit more, a little bit higher of a level. I think I'm hoping that the Rangers stick with him. I'm hoping to get 0 out of this pick, that he sticks as a starter and can figure things out. Because, when you're throwing 100 and you can do that as a starter and you've got movement on that fastball that he does now, and the breaking pitch is probably even better than that fastball, or at least was last year before he started throwing the two-seamer. I'm really high on that kid. I think he probably ends up as a reliever, and a really darn nasty one at that, which would be very nice to have a reliever who's nasty, who's homegrown, because it's been a hot minute since that's happened outside of, obviously, Rangers closer, elite Jose Leclerc. Now, before we end this show, we are going to end it as we always do with our random Ranger. Okay, let's read through who these picks are. I have Wyatt Langford, Mark Church, and Antoine Kelly and Emiliano Teodo. You have Jack Leiter, Justin Foscue, I've already forgotten the other two guys. You just said them 3 seconds ago. I've already forgotten. Jose Corniel was your last one, and then
Carson Coleman.
Carson Coleman. That's who it was. That definitely surprised me. But let's get to the Random Ranger. If you've not listened to a edition of Grant and I, What Are You Doing? Welcome to the show. Happy to have you. We always pick a Random Ranger to close things out. The randomer, the better. Had to spend at least one day on the Rangers' active Major League roster. Whether they had to play or not does not matter. They just had to be there and participate. This guy participated, and in a weird couple of games for the Rangers, 28 games in his Major League career. I don't anticipate him getting any more, even though he's still pretty darn young. Made his debut with the Rangers in 2020 as a 22-year-old, was called up way too soon, but had an exciting couple of games with the Rangers, a 726 OPS as a 22-year-old with a lot of swing and miss, and the swing and miss eventually sunk him. Do you know this Random Ranger?
Anderson Tejeda.
Anderson Tejeda. What an exciting prospect turned deeply troubled starting player for the Rangers for about 5 minutes. I was really high on that kid, and that was not a great way to start his Major League career. And kind of got off the rails real quickly, as it kind of looked like it might. Grant, who is your Random Ranger?
Yeah, Tejeda's 2021 season in Frisco was painful to watch. Painful. I'm going to go with a very random Ranger, very strange signing for the Rangers. And catcher, I guess they just needed a body at the end of 2022, so they signed him for like the last 5, 6, 7 games when they were 40 games out of first place. It was actually his last stint in the big leagues, at least at this point. He previously had stops with the Mets, Guardians, and Red Sox, and he went 3 for 11 as a Ranger. A nice little 273 slash line. Do you know who this Random Ranger is?
Oh, I do. It is the great Kevin Plawecki. What a great pull. The guy, you got to be really obscure to get a Random Ranger on for the last 3 years. And Kevin Plawecki is a great. As soon as you said he's a catcher, they started at the very. I'm like, oh, I know who this is. I know who this man is. That is a great Random Ranger. Grant, thank you so much for joining me and making all these predictions. May all of my predictions come true and all of your predictions make you look like an extreme hater. Best of luck to you in the debutante draft. I hope both of us have a combined 20 WAR from all of these picks. Probably not likely, but who knows? The Rangers won the World Series, so now is the time for mindless optimism, because why not us again? Thank you all so much for listening, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.